We got Geoff here from BetterVolt, and BetterVolt is in Dorrigo, installs, for example, in the Coffs Harbour, Bellingen area, etc. And I'm really surprised Geoff hasn't actually walked in with grey hair because he had to deal with the New South Wales battery rebate.
Yeah, that's been fun.
Yes. Look, my quick opinion on that battery rebate is, can politicians stay out of it and make an announcement 4 months out or 5 months out and then completely kill it?
Yeah, there's definitely some criticisms there. I'd like to say first off, I think the battery rebate's excellent in terms of what it's trying to achieve. So I really like the way that they've designed it. They're trying to get people to support the grid when it's under that stress 1% of the time. And that's when we need batteries to support. So they're promoting the right thing. How they've gone about it has been somewhat of a struggle, yes.
You're being very polite, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you know.
I mean, I know people who've lost hundreds of thousands of battery sales because as soon as that was announced, there was a screeching halt and the phone calls came through.
Well, I told my customers who had batteries, stop.
Oh,
so I forcibly stopped contracts and said, whoa, stop. You're going to get a couple of $1,000s off. Wait 5 months. So, yeah, it has hurt a little bit financially, you know, in the cash flow, but we've picked up other commercial jobs and off-grid jobs, so we've been busy enough. But we are about to get very busy now that the rebate has started. Mind you, we're 1 week in and we still haven't got the ability to produce a contract, so we're still waiting on the integration for the paperwork. Now, there's a very – it's encumbered It's a difficult thing to do.
You're allowed to swear when you feel
No, it's okay. The paperwork is pretty onerous. So when I go through my ACP, my accredited service certificate provider, I have to negotiate a rate. So that's the first thing. I have to say I'm going to buy 15,000 or 20,000 or 30,000 certificates for November and December and maybe 10,000 in January because it's a quiet month. And then when it comes time for me to sell those contracts out, if I've used up all my certificates, I have to then renegotiate for the next price, and the price could have dropped. It's on a market. And the price has varied between $2.30 and $2.40, and it's been as low as $1.50. So it goes up and down. And if I undersell, so if I don't sell those certificates, I'm in then trouble for the difference of whatever the price is at the end of that month that I said I would sell those certificates. So there is a financial risk for us. It's not a flat, here you go, the government is giving you this many thousands of dollars. It's not as simple as that. So apologies. I know that sounds confusing for the clients, but look, the main thing is go with someone who is clear about it.
Hang on. It sounds confusing for the client, but I mean, all you guys started off with is to want to install some solar panels, and now you're becoming literally traders.
Yeah, we have to predict a market. This is a very new thing. We don't know where the price is going to go on the certificates as it gets filled more and more. Speaking to Aaron Jenkins from EcoVantage, who's been doing PRCs. PRCs are the certificates that you get. He said that the stopping of the commercial hot water PRC market has allowed a bit of a gap, but how quickly we fill that gap and then how much of a supply then reduces demand and therefore reduces the price, who knows? It's going to be a bit of an open market.
Okay, for end customers who want to just buy a battery and love to grab a bit of rebate, they don't really care what all happens behind the scene. They just look at the front facade and they want to do
how many dollars? Yeah.
That's right.
And it's going to vary. So, you know, you might get a quote from me and I might say, here you go, for your 13 kilowatt hour battery, I'll give you $1,920. And someone else might give you $1,600 because they may be hedging their bets and worrying about what they're going to get on the market and whether they bought enough certificates. So it's going to be a little confusing.
But they could also do the bulldusty stuff and actually overprice the battery and then say, I'll give you $3,000 in the rebate, and this guy only gives you $1,900, so I'm the better guy.
Because in the end, it's the total contract price after the discount that matters.
That's right.
So yes, people need to realise there are pluses and minuses on both product and on certificates, and they just have to look at the best product and look at apples for apples.
So they got to look really at whatever battery it is right at the end, that it's the same, and the price point that is after the rebate, not really what is the rebate given, because with the way solar and solar cells guys work, I'm not counting on ethical behavior in every instance.
Yeah, and then also product. There's a huge variation in the value and the cost of a product. So you may buy a product thinking that you're getting a really good deal, but it's actually the cheapest product in the market that you've gotten at a very high margin from the person who's sold it to you. Or you might be getting a really high quality product with a really low margin and it's a really good value, but it's more expensive than the cheap stuff. So do your research. I've just come back from All Energy in Melbourne, where this is the trade show for all solar and battery products in the market. And it was huge. The 375 metre hall was about 85% full. It was insane, and about 100 metres wide. It was insane. There was 15,000 people. And I've never seen this many products and so many rebadged products that I would just steer well clear of. So, pick the brands that are quality. I believe that to be Fronius and BYD batteries and SIG Energy. They're my two products. So, go with something that is cutting edge. That's why we're now stocking the SIG Energy range. I think that that's excellent. I've never seen anything as cutting edge on about 4 different fronts. The VPP V2L, so that's virtual power plant and vehicle to load. Everybody talks about these acronyms, but the fact is that there's all these barriers to bringing them into market. VPP is now working with my Fronius and BYD systems really well. I was trading energy yesterday and had a big smile on my face. But the SIG Energy product is very close. And then vehicle to load, everybody's been talking about vehicle to load or vehicle to grid for a long time. The issue is that there are regulations about what can connect to your house and or the grid. So,
just for somebody who doesn't know about this, is basically that the car, which is an EV, can literally be plugged back into the house and becomes a backup battery power for the house.
Yeah.
And technically it is definitely possible right now, but there are lots of Australian rules in regards to how your house has to be, has safety barriers on it, so the power can't run backwards or down the line. The battery runs and electrocutes the linesman who's fixing the line. So there's lots of safety.
During a blackout, it has to island properly and turn away from the grid and become a little off-grid system. So there are aspects to this that the car manufacturers are never going to want to play with the 14 different DNSPs or networks around Australia and all their slightly different version of those rules. Well, inverters have to do that already. So why not put a battery behind the inverter? In other words, why don't you connect it on the DC, not the AC? And so SIG Energy have a unique product in that they have a DC charger pin. So just like when you go to the fast DC chargers for your electric vehicles, and it's got the 2 big pins on the bottom of the 5 pins at the top, those directly go to the battery. And so if you can plug in your electric vehicle and suddenly your 10 kilowatt hour home battery goes up to 70 kilowatt hours because you've got a 60 kilowatt hour battery in your car, and then you can play with that energy in a blackout. You can trade that energy into the grid for virtual power plants and all those exciting things.
Well, I've got somewhere to put it when I have a 30 kilowatt system and it exports all, and I'm not using it in the house, and I can suddenly send it into my battery and my thing. So look, I want to explain to you the situation. I'm using this for my own knowledge now. I got a situation at home, and I want you to explain to me if SIG Energy can actually help my particular circumstance.
Sure.
So I have a 30 kilowatt solar power system on the roof.
I love it.
Okay,
Are you on 3-phase power?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And it includes a carport as well, which is another 5-6 kilowatts. And so all up is 30, it's 25. And I have a 25 kilowatt SMA 3-phase inverter. Yeah. And I have a separate 5 kilowatt SMA 3-phase inverter.
Right.
That's my German background coming out.
Yeah, sure. And SMA is a good solar product.
And they're both only about 3 years old. Okay. Now, I've got exporting average 100 kilowatt hours a day minimum. I use 25 to 30. So I need, and now the feed-in tariff's coming down.
And why are they coming down? Very obviously because feed-in tariffs are going negative now in the middle of the day.
Yeah, I know. And
right now mine's 2 cents, but earlier today it was -4.
Wow.
So there are. There's a glut of solar energy in the middle of the day.
I know, but this is the energy retailers who don't decide that off-grid going forward is not at night anymore, but it's between 9 and 3 o'clock, and every hot water system should be programmed and reprogrammed to take the electricity at that time.
Yes.
And we get rid of the duck curve in solar.
Off-peak is strangely still overnight. But not to be confused, there's time of use tariffs off-peak, which is, in essential energy in my area, it's all weekend and then between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. in the morning. running on the weeknights. But effectively, there's controlled load off-peak. It's a separate thing, and people get confused between that.
I'm trying to get this personal advice going.
Oh, sure.
So I just finished. Got those two inverters.
So you've got two SMA inverters.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of getting an electric car very shortly.
Yes.
So now I'm interested in a battery that can take my load during the day and then also help me to charge the car, out of the battery. So I'll possibly look at least at 20 to 30 kilowatt hours of battery capacity.
Well, look, try not to charge your car from a battery. You want to charge your car from solar or cheap rates overnight, perhaps. If there's lots of wind power in the middle of the night, it's 18 cents a kilowatt hour. When you're with Amber, I have wholesale rates. It varies all the time. But if you can charge on cheap rates overnight or on solar during the day and avoid trying to cycle a battery to run another battery, you're going to be better financially because you're wearing out one product to charge another product. So you're better off to just make it a smart, intelligent charging algorithm and set it up for your purposes and your home appliance use patterns. And that's where also SIG Energy is looking very interesting.
But are you saying that for me not to get a battery?
I'm saying get a battery, but just don't try and charge a car off another home battery.
All right, I got that. So you're basically saying, there's smarter ways to charge the car.
Yes.
But do I then have to get rid of my SMA inverters if I go with SIG Energy?
Look, just like I use Fronius and Selectronic inverter chargers for off-grid systems. They're the best. Well, look, SMA is another very popular brand. The problem is you have to get 3 inverter chargers to go on each phase. So both the SMA and the Selectronic products are built for the old school days of off-grid, and they're kind of integrating to on-grid hybrid. But the problem is there's a format of inverter charger, and I know it's the case with Victron and Selectronic, and I think it might be the same with the SMAs as well. You can't export battery into the grid. It's a format, it's the structure, and it's the category of which the battery energy storage system falls into with the regulators and how they get their regulation through. So you really need to go for a modern all-in-one product which is allowed to export battery energy into the grid because that's the future.
But what about, would the Tesla 2 AC allow me to be...
You mean Tesla Powerwall 3?
No, the new Tesla, the old Tesla Powerwall 2, I could have bolted that onto the side of the system, couldn't I?
Yes, but you can't play with your car battery, and this is where it gets tricky. So you want your car battery to integrate through the DC pins on your charger socket, your Type 2 CCS charger socket. You want that to integrate straight in behind the inverter, which is capable of exporting DC battery back to the grid, and the car just becomes another subset of batteries.
Geoff talks a lot with his hands, so for any audio problems...
I'm Italian. Yeah,
All right. So basically, if I want my car to be part of the infrastructure, what do I have to do?
You need an inverter that's going to play. You need to switch to an inverter brand that's going to play in the way you want. Most people are going to go down this path. Some people will pick the Tesla path, but I'm a strong advocate for other reasons to go down something like SIG Energy.
I don't think he was happy that Trump just got elected a couple of days ago.
I don't think Elon should be playing in these things, but people and power and energy and power and control are all they're all interlinked. I don't want to comment. I think people.
You already have.
I think people will see the effects of this and recognize that maybe we went down a different path that we should have. So we know that we have a problem with climate change. We know that there are impacts going on right now around the world with authoritarian rises and regimes. And, I wouldn't want to be a Ukrainian or a Palestinian right now. But the point is, Trump's going to do what he does. He's only going to be in for 4 years. I don't even think he's going to make 4 years. At 78, he's got this big, white, puffy face. My uncle had that just before... He might even serve some of it from prison. Who knows?
My uncle had that just before the stroke.
Look, I think that we have to think about the children and the children's children and the children's children's children, because we don't have time to be messing about with politics and promoting fossil fuels. It's not even a case of it's cheaper now. It's way more expensive to go that path. And anyone who's got any brain on their shoulders that hasn't been paid for by Exxon or Chevron or BP knows Woodside. And says, or Woodside, or Gina and those guys, they want to play a game because they are staring down the barrel of stranded assets, and we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars. So if we want to listen to their politics, we're going to play down. We're going to benefit their pocket. That's what it comes down to. So let's just get on with the case of understanding economics and science and thinking about the future. So everyone's going down renewables. Everyone's going wind and solar, and they're adding battery storage and or pumped hydro and other things. Those are going to be the cheapest forms of energy going forward without a doubt.
I mean, hang on. I don't actually totally agree when you take into account the transmission lines and all of that it is the cheapest form, because there's still elements of the recycling and all of that stuff that come onto it. Just wait. But if when you take into the coal element, the on-cost of the damage that it causes overall to the climate, the world, migration and all of that, and you start putting a cost on those factors, then obviously it's much more expensive because it has the potential to threaten humankind. So it's a pretty expensive price.
As we discussed here, what was it, 10 months ago, nuclear is a furphy because you can't even calculate the costs of the storage of the nuclear waste for 50,000 years, which is what you have to do.
I think you can. Russia can. They just gave Google some kind of fine and they really used a special calculator
20 decatillion. Yeah, more than the assets of everything on the planet. And this is the problem. With inflation, you can't work out what something's going to be in 1,000 years, let alone 50,000 years. So, you have to look at every impact. And I do agree with you. There's a lot of spin and a lot of everyone's got their vested interest. You don't have to put 500 hours worth of storage into a battery system to supply every hour of electricity. The CSIRO and all the guys who are paid a lot of money and work for decades in this field, both economically and strategically looking at assets, they've worked it out. We only need 15% of our, or maybe 18% of our total energy use for the day to be stored in batteries for it to all balance out, and you wouldn't need anything more.
But this is an interesting point, because I'm a bit annoyed that people are allowed to build huge solar farms, allowed to build huge commercial solar things on their roofs, getting a rebate for it, but there's no need at the same time to build a battery. I mean, shouldn't there be a certain system size after which you can only install it if it has solar and battery attached? Shouldn't we maybe on the commercial field bring the STCs up to a 500 kilowatts or even a megawatt and say, okay, you can get the STCs for it, but you have to have a battery with it. I mean, I believe that all those roofs in the cities, every single one, windows, fences, everything.
We're not maximising the potential.
Put solar on it, and guess how many less transmission lines you will need out of the solar farms.
Well, that's why I like the PDRS. So this is the New South Wales Department of Climate and Energy has got the peak demand reduction scheme. And they're trying to hit it from both ends. We want supply, but we also want to reduce peak demand. And if we do that, we can make the two things meet, and we don't need anywhere near as much transmission lines and all the other things we need. So batteries are the key. So this battery rebate that's just come out, and yes, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare with the paperwork, but we'll get there. It is the right thing to incentivize the right actions. So
why did paperwork? Why did they make it so difficult? Is that, there's always three guys that know exactly how to rip off the system, and then there's 3,000 guys that now do extra paperwork to avoid falling the trap that the three guys have just set by ripping the system off. I don't get it. Why is the majority always suffering?
Yeah, look, I don't have a short and simple answer for you. Nothing we can talk about in this podcast in any short amount of time. But effectively, we have a short space of time to inject intelligent battery operation into our grid. And that's the most important thing. So for instance, if 10 people buy a battery, but 8 of those people just use it in their home, they still get the PDRS scheme money. Okay, they get the BESS1 category certificate credit.
Okay, hang on.
So they might get a couple of grand off their battery.
So for normal people, there is a rebate. It's over $1,000. It could be as close as 2,000, and you get that just getting your home battery and using it. But then there's additional money if you allow that battery to be connected to the overall grid infrastructure.
Yep.
And in critical times when 50,000 people run their air conditioning and there's a bit of shortage, they're allowed to sneak a little bit out of your battery. And if they do that from thousands and thousands of batteries, then it helps the grid to be more stable.
That's called the BESS2 category credit.
Right.
And there's more certificates for that. It's not a lot. It's $200 or $300. You get it once and you get it again in 3 years. If you're still on the VPP, you get another $200 or $300. Now,
is it BS, is it?
BESS. So battery energy storage systems.
When I hear
BESS1, BESS2.
I hear something different when I hear BS.
There's an E in the middle. Right. And the electrification of everything is the answer. So when we say, well, we should force people to do this, I don't think we should have punitive measures to try and force people. We just provide more incentive. So you've got 10 people, 8 of them get the battery and get the couple of $1,000s off. But 2 of those people who then get the few $100s extra, and again in a few years' time another few $100s, they are actually doing something far more valuable for the grid. So go back to yesterday. There's my house. It's running. It's looking cloudy outside. There's a fair bit of demand on the grid because it's really muggy. And so I saw the price got up to $6 a kilowatt hour on the wholesale market. You don't see this on your normal bill. This is what your retailer has to buy and sell. And it normally hovers at 10, 15 cents. So when it goes to 5, 10, 15, I've even seen it at $18.29 a kilowatt
So
hour.
just make that clear. Something
Wholesale
that costs you 35 cents at home, the guys who supply you for a short period might have to pay $18 to buy that and then give it to you for 35 cents.
Exactly.
That's a crazy market.
And it only happens maybe less than 1% of the time. You don't get a lot of this, and it short spikes when there's not enough supply to meet demand. So when batteries discharge, and remember these 2 people out of 10 that took advantage of that second little VPP credit? Okay, great. They are now supporting at a far greater effect. My system's punching 7.5 kilowatts out to the grid. It's not just supplying the 500 watts or say it's 2,000 watt load of my air conditioner and something else running. It's pushing a whole bunch more, and it's supporting 2, 3 or 4 customers up the street who don't have any battery.
So let's say if you do that trading in the market and you got, how big is your battery?
16 kilowatt hours.
All right. So let's say you happen to have 14 left in the battery and you go, yep. Oh, look, it's $20 per kilowatt hour. I'm going to push this out now, or I assume your app does it automatically.
It does.
What are you actually getting yourself? I mean, there's still a middleman in between. You're not getting the full $20,
actually,
are you?
That's what I love about Amber. They're not a middleman. They specifically say we're a subscription-based energy retailer. We're going to charge you $22 a month to be with us, and whatever the rate is on the market, there you go. They have no incentive. There's no margin or anything to mess with that trading. And so they came out with the smart shift algorithm that then automatically chooses to sell and then even sometimes buy and sell quickly when it sees a price spike coming.
So if you get and send 10 kilowatt hours out at that $20,
let's say $10.
Price.
Yep.
No, I want 20.
Well, I mean, it might happen. It's going to happen more and more.
It's been very rare, but let's make it 20.
It's getting worse and worse.
That means at that point in time, your battery has just made you $200.
Yes.
Is it?
So on the 5th of August, my battery made me $148. It did 2 things in one day. At 3:30 in the morning, it recognized that it was a bit low. It was only at 20% because I'd used a bit of energy the night before, or I can't remember what. So it went, oh, there's a price spike coming at 6:30, 7 o'clock. And so it charged off the grid, filled my battery up, and then discharged. And I bought $12 of energy and I sold 60. I made $48. And then I charged the battery up off solar during the day, and then I discharged in the evening when the price spike was even higher, and I made $100. I made $148 and I didn't have to do a damn thing.
Okay, but by charging and discharging your battery more often than you would normally do, don't you kind of wear your battery a bit out?
Excellent point, Marcus. Yes, that is very true. Every time you charge and discharge your battery, you're using up a little bit of its lifespan. And when you estimate the cost, it's depending on the brand of the battery and the cost of putting it all together and the bits that go with the battery, it's somewhere between 20 and 30 cents a kilowatt hour. So people go, oh, I want to get a battery because I want to store my energy and use it at night. And I go, have you done the economics on that? Because it may not be as good as what you think. But hold on, now we're talking about a price on a market where it goes to $5, $10, and it's discharging rarely. We're talking 1% of the time. So we're only talking maybe an extra couple of dozen cycles a year, or maybe 30. But 30 cycles out of a 3,000 cycle life battery is nothing. And you're making good money for that very short, brief, intense price spike. So that's where the money's at.
The other question I have when it comes to the battery, let's say they do degrade, and so let's make it up again, after 5 years, I'm only getting 85% of my initial capacity, let's say, something like that. And then it reaches, let's say, 60% after 10 years. Do I then go, I'm still happy with 60 because I started off with 40.
The battery still works.
And it still works. And now I've got 24, but the 2 teenage kids have left, so I've got less needs.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you
There's also a second life industry. They're talking about taking batteries and going, well, I'll run them down from 60 to 30% lifespan by putting 20 of those together and then using them to trade in the market, whether it's a commercial battery or someone's just playing the market with it. There's a second life industry that's popping up and going to bloom.
You do regularly off-grid. So when do you actually say to people...
When's the time?
Yeah.
Well, firstly, batteries don't degrade as fast as what they have in the warranty. They're just hedging their bets. So firstly, with the BESS, we've just now noticed that everyone's been brought up to a minimum standard of 70% at 10 years. But the truth is they're going to have a bell curve of issues with batteries. And so the bulk are always fine. They're just worried about the tail end here. So from them going from, 60% to 70% barely increases their risk. Those batteries are going to last 15 years or more. And well within their capacity, warranted capacity that they're supposed to have for the warranty. So it's not going to be a problem for the end user. They're just going to have a little bit less capacity and they'll go, oh, okay, well, that's way better than what the warranty was. So it's not an issue. The issue is when people are playing with virtual power plants that are a bit of a rip-off. Now, I have a bit of a bug on this one. I've been in the industry for a long time and I've seen a lot of virtual power plants offered by a lot of energy retailers that are greedy. They're keeping 80% of the traded benefit of your battery. You go and invest all this money in a lovely battery, you give them control and they give you pennies. They give you scraps from the table.
You're talking about the big players in the energy retail space,
I've
aren't
seen
you?
90% of the VPPs out there I don't like. The only ones I really do like are the ones that give you all of the control, all of the benefit.
So, okay, let me explain this to end customers. You've got the virtual power plant, meaning your battery is now trading in the market. If you go with something like Amber, then you keep in control of the maximum benefit.
Yes.
If you have another player in front of you, and I'm not going to name names, but big energy retailers offer it,
yep.
Then the bureaucracy to run it and their profit needs sucks up that much out of the VPP that you just get the smell of the oily rag. Is that what you're saying?
You get 10, 20, at best 30% of the benefit. So they're doing it because they've got to set this all up and manage it and they want to make a profit. So Amber doesn't have a vested interest.
It makes the grid more stable, which is their benefit. So shouldn't they just be doing it for that?
But do they have to do something about fixing the grid, or do they just have to force the politicians to make the public pay to fix the grid? That's the question.
Right.
It's not their job to stabilise the grid. It's our job as the public to be burdened with the financial cost of that, according to them.
But hang on a second. The government gave all this solar rebate out. All this solar has been now generated. The solar makes actually the grid a little bit less stable, but nobody was forced at the same time to buy a battery. And the energy retailers and the distributors who saw this solar coming like an oncoming train never created the capacity of batteries at the same time to absorb it, to avoid the issues in the future.
They're trying to do it now, though, because they can see the financial benefit just like us.
But solar started in 2006. We're now at 2024, 18 years
they were
of
15 times the cost they are now. Panels have come down so much. And that's what's made it just such a silly discussion when you talk about nuclear and things. It's like, you've got to be kidding me. At the cost of solar, you can set up a solar farm and produce energy for 3 cents a kilowatt hour. Now, say you sell it at 4 cents and you're making a good profit and you're maintaining it and everything like that for 25, 30 years. So you can play in the market. When the market's hovering at 10, 12 cents, you can displace all the coal. That's why the coal is going out. It's not because no politician or any public person has got control of those assets. In some states, maybe on some assets. But most of the time, they're foreign-owned, energy companies who own coal-fired power plants, and they're closing down because they can't compete. They're lucky to make a profit at 12, 13 cents, depending on the time of day, of course. But we're talking on average here.
But hang on a second.
So wind and solar are kicking their ass.
I get that, but solar panels are so cheap because I hear China's dumping them on us.
They're not dumping
just hang on. I tell you, I'll give you the proof.
Yeah.
a table, let's make this a whiteboard, okay?
Yeah.
And of this size, at one of the big players, $180 with 2 wheels. Not much technology in this thing. And a solar panel with the technology in it, same size, with glass on top. So this one doesn't even have glass.
Yeah, nice backing sheet, solar cells, cabling, the whole lot, bypass diodes.
Half the price.
I know.
$90.
I mean, it's about economy of scale. China did the right thing. Yes, they give low interest loans. Yes, they give, land. And this goes for electric cars as well. Everyone's up in arms about how they've sponsored their own industries to make a cheap product. We do the same thing in our industries, in our countries. It's rich for us to criticize the Chinese for doing the right thing that's going to decrease their air pollution and decrease their reliability on fossil fuels. So they're doing the right thing for themselves. They recognise that renewables are brilliant.
We never do that. When we give the farmers the diesel rebate, that's just charity.
We don't sponsor railway lines for transmission of coal or gas or anything else, do we? No. We don't put $700 billion worth of subsidies into fossil fuels every year, do we? No. So it's really rich for us to criticise the Chinese to go, we'll give you some zero interest loans, or we'll give you, an easy deal on getting this land here to build that factory. And then they build that factory, they build it at scale, they build great quality, and then they can produce a solar panel, stick it on a ship it over here, and still turn a profit at a cost that it's so cheap that we can't understand. And we go, they're dumping. They're not dumping. They're just being damn efficient and smart about it. And frankly, we should get on the same board. I agree with building Australia's infrastructure and sponsoring people with income with tax credits to build infrastructure in Australia. It's just too damn late with solar panels. I think we should get in on the batteries.
We're spending $1 billion now to create a solar industry.
Not just solar. That's a whole bunch of industries.
It's a lot of money. $1 billion.
And I think
it's the biggest solar industry in the world.
It's smart money for batteries because it's still early days. We can still get in and be a part of it. But it's too damn late for solar panels because we've left it 15 years. We let go of Martin Green and I've forgotten the other gentleman's name, the two grandfathers of solar. We let him go and build Suntech in China. We could have done that in Australia. It's such a crying shame that we didn't recognise the benefit of this future industry. And so now the Chinese have done it and we're calling them dumpers. We could have done it here in Australia.
So you're saying it's too late for Australia to have
for solar panels? Yes. For batteries, no.
But why? Panels is so easy. It takes only a couple of $100 million to build a factory. Why can't we do it here? I mean, we've got the sand, we've got the soil, we've got the sun.
You're right, we've got the resources, but they've already built that infrastructure.
And what they're building like 500 million panels a year and we don't have that demand.
Their factories are a kilometre long. How many factories in Australia are that big? And they're doing everything. They're vertically integrated from the point of melting down the sand to spitting out a panel in a box on a pallet. So, let's get in on the things we can make money on. We can be advanced thinkers. I just went for a tour through Selectronics factory. Fantastic Australian manufacturing. Been going for nearly 70 years. The best inverter chargers for off-grid situations in Australia.
They never die.
They're brilliant.
I've seen them 25 years later. It's terrible for the company because they can't sell a new one.
Yeah, well, they're not cheap, but they last.
They last 25 years. Yeah. They really do.
And I've seen them overloaded thousands of times and they just handle it. And you look at I won't say a brand name, but a very comparable brand name that's half the price and it looks like it's way more powerful. Temperature rating, it's made for Australian conditions. You can see it working hard at 60 degrees.
Anyway, you've been in the Australian manufacturing. What did you find?
Look, I think we can do well at batteries and EVs. I think we can do well at power electronics, maybe in certain niche situations, but I don't think we should try and fight on the solar panels. So I'd like to see that $1 billion spent intelligently. I mean, we're putting, nearly $1 billion every year in taxpayer subsidies to fossil fuels, so it's a drop in the pond. It's about us getting in on the technology and the being world leaders in this transition instead of playing these constant climate games. You only have to look at America now. They're about to go through another batch of climate games and kicking the football down the road and down the road. We can get there cheaper and easier. Lots of industries are parasites. I'm sorry to say, but you look at the fossil fuel industry and they are the world's biggest parasite. And the military industrial complex and IT and all those guys, they're all parasites. They're sucking on this living being that is our world economy. And they are going to draw off as much blood or, flow of cash as they can as we let them. We should be ripping the leeches off and getting on with the job of supplying blood flow to our economy at the base level, at your home, at your business. Why are we letting these people play politics and change the conversation so we should be talking about nuclear? Just look at the carbon based in the concrete to pour the damn building. Look at the energy, the inbuilt energy and all the components and everything you've got to do, and then mining infrastructure to take the ore and refine it and make the rods, and to do all of that and then still have 50,000 year long nuclear waste to deal with is idiocy, when it's going to cost 4 times more up front and hundreds of times more in the long run. It's just pointless.
Are you being sponsored by the
Sponsored by the sun.
Gee, you've got a very strong opinion on this one.
I'm sick and tired of the games. I just turned 50 and I am sick and tired of the games. I saw climate science in the 80s. Where are we now? We're still kicking the can down the road. And I really feel for the kids of today. I've been a scout leader for 23 years, and the apathy and the disillusionment from teenagers when it comes to these sorts of things, they just see the constant squabbles and they just walk away and they go play computer games and get on their phones. It's sad.
But which uses electricity. Which uses electricity.
It does. And they're talking about now rebuilding these nuclear power plants to run the Microsoft, servers, the new AI server,
crazy
buildings.
Now, talking about AI and all of that, and all, we all think we're now much smarter. We're not cutting the trees down. We don't use the paper and all that. But the power that all these computing uses, that's pretty amazing too, isn't it? Is that really a step forward?
Yeah, everything has an impact and we have to reduce that impact. So nothing's a zero-sum game. There's always benefits. It's just how good is the benefit. Renewable energy and storage, whether it be batteries or pumped hydro or those sorts of things, is going to be and is now and is going to be the cheapest form of energy on the planet going forward, full stop. And why not? How could we let a fossil fuel industry brainwash us to the point where we think we want to store billion-year-old energy into coal or oil or whatever, gas, and we want to dig it up and transport it on trucks and then get it to a distribution center and then refine it and do this and then transport it to your fuel depot and then you pump it into your car and you burn that stuff and you push your big lump of metal around and you waste 70% of the energy at the end, at the engine. You know that 2/3 of all the fossil fuel energy we grab out of the environment and use, 2/3 is lost as waste. You turn it electric, you actually dramatically reduce that waste. That waste comes down to 10-15%. So now we don't need to replace all of the energy we need that we're currently using as fossil fuels, as primary energy. We don't need to replace all of that. We need to replace half of that, and we easily do it.
But you must have driven a petrol car. You still driving
way
one?
Too many kilometres, and I feel the guilt for that. But now I own one electric car and one fuel car, and I'm going to move towards full electric because it's intelligent. I'm lucky. I'm privileged enough to be able to afford it. We need to make it cheap enough for everyone to be able to afford it.
Well, the Chinese EVs are very cheap now.
You watch the seagulls coming. That's going to be mid-20,000s.
Is that another brand, is it?
Oh, no, BYD. It's the model. It's the Seagull. It's the $15,000 in China, the little $15,000 300K runabout. That's going to transform the market. The BYD Shark comes out. They've just released the pricing, $57,500 plus on-road costs, so a little over 60. But that's got the power and torque of better than a Raptor, the top-of-the-range Raptor, Ford Ranger. So, great performance, and you'll drive 80 kilometres real world on your decent sized battery, and you can run that 99% of the time on your solar or cheap energy overnight. So now there's cost-effective, beneficial vehicles hitting the market. And the dual cab ute market's huge in Australia, so they're going to go like hotcakes.
Hang on. I read years ago that EVs destroy the weekend because you can't tow your ute and you can't do this.
But then, did you see the guy who immediately towed this massive boat up out the front of Scott Morrison's office? Do you remember that? That little furphy was immediately there were guys who drove around Australia with towing caravans and things and immediately showed that to be completely untrue. No, electricity has power and torque. There's no problem towing. The problem is range and charging infrastructure. And so it's all about delay, obfuscate, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That's what they sell. That's what the fossil fuel industry has sown us with, to the point now where people come up to me and go, "Oh, those electric cars aren't really worth it, are they?" I'm like, what? Have you done any research outside of your fossil fuel bubble? You know, the Murdoch press says what they say for a reason. Oh, sorry. I mean some certain news outlets.
No, but seriously, the power of those papers is going down, because I go to a petrol station at the end of the day to fill up my car.
Yeah.
And there's still a stack this big of the Daily Telegraph in Sydney sitting around. They're not selling very much.
No, they
anymore.
lose money on the papers, but they have a domination of the conversation, and that is worth political money out the wazoo. So Rupert doesn't run his news network to make money out of papers or news. And that's reflected in the quality of the news. It's all about what he can sell to people who have something to spin. So, you know, whether it's fossil fuels or Donald Trump or whatever, whoever's got money to spend, and there's trillions of dollars in the fossil fuel industry's pocket to keep us all back where they want us. They are leeches. That's all they are.
I think you should, look, to get people engaged and believe you.
I should be some more positive.
I think, no. I think those words that are those emotive words, if you would kind of turn them into something just a little bit softer. It's just, I'd have to Google what is a softer word to leech.
I don't know.
So I just feel your credibility is going to go up a little bit.
I know. I shouldn't be so opinionated.
People feel like you're waving and raving a bit like some persons in Parliament.
And then they associate me with some fringe left idea. It's like, no, it's science. It's economics. And then it's simple.
And then if they know that you install solar on Belgian,
they go, "Oh, you're doing it because you're a solar guy." Well, okay, you don't have to be a solar company owner.
And people like you would have been at Woodstock.
You, Mr. Customer, who doesn't believe in solar even, you can buy an electric car, run it on cheap energy overnight, and it'll cost you 4 cents a kilometre. Okay, do the math.
Wow,
is that better than your current car?
That is.
Yeah,
but listen, let's come
Servicing
back.
costs, everything.
Let's just come back to you and yourself, okay? I mean, all I can say to customers in Bellingen, in Coffs Harbour, in Dorrigo, if you get Geoff, you get his passion, you get his knowledge, you get his belief to get a better. Your big problem is you spend so much time analysing what the customer wants that you're actually going to give him a really good solution, but you can't make much money on it because you spend so much time really, really, really doing the right job.
Too much time talking, you mean?
Yeah, something like that.
I've had a few customers actually just look at me like, "What are you on about?
I signed.
I'm happy with the product. Can you just shut up now?"
I've signed half an hour ago. You're still selling it to me.
It's a curse.
Look,
wow. There's an interesting story to be told. So the story now is whole home electrification. You've got a 3-phase system. If you say get a 3-phase SIG Energy product and you get a battery that goes with it, you can then get the direct DC charging cable. Now, what cars are compatible, that's all still being worked on. So don't buy your car until you know it's compatible. But then you come home, you plug in your car, you got vehicle to load, you can run your house on your car, you can run your house home battery and your car battery add together to support you during blackouts. They can send that energy back to the grid through a virtual power plant like Amber Smart Shift. You've got 0 millisecond UPS, so no break in electricity. You can go off-grid if you ever want. That product has a built-in generator input as well. So it's on-grid, off-grid, and hybrid product. Everything. It's got a ChatGPT sort of AI-driven support function. So you can get good support. You can ask it you can ask it dumb questions and give you intelligent answers. It's got a...
So hang on. Could I decide I'm in Sydney, but I put enough of these batteries together that I could decide to actually within a city to be off-grid?
Sure. There's nothing stopping you from going off-grid. You just wouldn't want to do it because you want to be able to play and get paid. Play and pay. That's the key thing.
If I'm off-grid, I can't get money for a
You can't play with a VPP. You want to be on the grid. You've got a great piece of infrastructure that comes into your house. Use it.
So theoretically, if I have my car with it and all integrated, and let's say the electricity goes up to $15 a kilowatt hour, and let's say it's only half an hour.
Yeah.
But
an hour, maybe.
If I have the ability to push a lot out, including the money out of my battery in the car, that's when I'm making serious coin, don't I?
People don't realize I actually named my company.
Really serious coin?
Why did I name my company BetterVolt? You don't know, do you? So I've been in the industry a long time and I've seen a lot of people do a lot of dodgy stuff and they're affecting the grid voltage. So you're talking about stability of the grid. Well, you got to break up that conversation. If it's sort of an engineering thing and people want to zone out, but just stop and think. If you push too much in, you raise the voltage too high. And if you do it badly, if you don't have someone if you don't have someone who's an accredited designer, so you must ask your consultant who's going to give you a contract and a design, have you got an accreditation?
No, I'm just a solar sales.
Don't buy anything off anyone.
I'm just a solar sales guy.
95% of people you buy from are just salespeople. So talk to someone who's got an accreditation.
At least an electrician.
Well, some small companies have designers and design and install accreditations. They are the installer and the designer. I'm a little different. I'm a designer. I'm not the electrician. I've got 6 guys who install for me. So they'll have a design and accreditation and install accreditation. I have a design accreditation. I don't have to have an install accreditation because I'm not putting the damn thing in. But you must get it designed by someone who knows this, who've gone through and paid the thousands of dollars and spent the time and understand cabling and aren't just selling from an armchair. Oh my God, how do those guys even legally do an application? They lie on their applications.
Just one quick one.
Yeah.
The damn thing is the excellent equipment that you sell, isn't it? You
yes,
said, I'm not
absolutely.
installing the damn thing.
But some things are damned things and some things are blessed things.
Ah, right. Digging
well, there's a lot of products people are going to feel damned with, that's for sure. So I check the cabling when I go out to see someone's house and I put it into a spreadsheet and I show them as I do it what a voltage rise calculation is. I check the current capacity of things and I make sure it's going to adhere to the standard. Wow, it's amazing. We have standards, but 95% of people don't even know and just sell you something off from a package from a sheet.
I don't think a solar sales guy ever worries about the voltage that causes whatever he does now.
Well, we need to because we can't keep injecting solar into the grid and keep the grid stable unless we do these things that are in the standards. If we want to go to where we need to be in 10, 20 years and really get carbon down and try and electrify everything for the cost of everyone's benefit and use the damn stuff that falls on your roof for free, it's called solar energy, well, then we need to play with the grid nicely. And people go on about the solar tax and how, this is wrong and how dare they. The old model was that we used gas and coal-fired generators that would send energy thousands of kilometres to our house and they clipped the ticket. Essential Energy would get to clip the ticket. All these networks would get to clip the ticket. Well, hold on, but I'm sending energy into the grid. It goes 10 metres and into my neighbours, into your house. Are they clipping the ticket anymore?
Big time.
So we need to give them fair recompense. I do feel like as long as it was regulated by the government, not by industry, don't let them get their hand in the cookie jar, then I don't mind a cent or a cent and a half of cost going to the networks. Yeah.
Okay. Last question for the very excited, very high octane podcast today.
Yes.
Why doesn't the government just spend $500-600 billion and buy the whole damn grid back and designs it properly?
I saw that recently on a podcast. It's too late. There's too much legal risk. And you can call that sovereign risk because we as a nation have made contracts to sell these assets to foreign-owned multinationals who've got extremely well-paid lawyers, and there's no way we're going to wrestle them back off. But what we should damn well sure do is never sell what we are currently owning still. Essential Energy is still a state-owned asset. Ausgrid and Endeavour, yes, they were sold off by the state government. That was a stupid thing to do. So please don't let anyone ever sell another asset. Vote with your politicians the way that you should. Protect our assets because we will pay more and they will cut corners and they will degrade the asset. That's the sum total game. Don't let them sell off a monopolistic asset. That's a stupid thing to do.
Just like the toll roads in Sydney that you're enjoying today.
Yeah. So back to the PDRS. That's obviously the talking point of the day. I think it's a great system. I think the incentive is correct. It's a shame. They should have made the BESS2, the joiner VPP, and get paid to do it better. They should have made it sort of not $200. It should be $500 or $700. It should be a lot more because that is the benefit we need. But here's the other thing. People go, I want to get this credit. It's like, yeah, okay. So we get you $2,000 off by getting an 11 kilowatt hour battery and joining the BESS2 and you join virtual power plant. You're going to make $2,000 up front. You're going to make over $1,000 a year trading energy with Amber Smart Shift. Don't get $200 or $300 from these guys over here for this pathetic virtual power plant. Go and get the money that you deserve.
So your key advice is not to go with those offers from big solar retailers and join their VPP, but to basically get your own app and just trade, because the financial incentives are much bigger.
Because there's dirty dealings. You got to remember that those guys who make a lot of money out of running your battery then give kickbacks to the solar companies, the big solar companies that are selling you onto that VPP. It's over $1,000. They just give it to them because you're signing up to something that they know they're going to work you for. So you
actually got a sales guy in front of you selling you something that they say, oh, just join this thing. And do they not have to reveal that they're actually getting a commission to push that?
They don't have to reveal it. They might reveal it and say, oh, look, if you join the VPP, I'll give you $1,000 off. They literally, it'll be pretty obvious. But in the end, go with a small company that says to you, I don't want any hand in the benefits that you're going to create from this. Go with the retailer that says, I'm going to take any hand, I'm not going to take any cut of any of the benefits that you're getting from your trading of energy with your battery. You get 100%.
All right. And you're saying you could make up to $1,000 a year?
Look, I reckon I'm going to make about $1,700 a year on my system, but I've got a 3-phase 7.5 kilowatt export limit and I've got a 16 kilowatt hour battery. Most people get about 2/3 of that. So I think people are going to make $1,000 to $1,200. We'll see. It all depends on how many peak price events there are. We're only going on history. I can't guarantee anything. It's speculative. But one thing I know is for sure is that this problem is getting worse, not better.
I was just going to say, if all these batteries there, maybe we get a very stable grid and the chances to earn that money is going less and less.
Yeah, but they're closing down coal-fired power stations. And so we're needing batteries more and more. This next decade is critical. So yes, in a decade's time, it's all going to be pretty sewn up. There's going to be lots of pumped hydro. There's like 27 pumped hydro projects running in Australia right now, being built,
right.
Including Snowy Hydro 2.0. But there's big batteries going in on solar farms and wind farms. There's big batteries just going in anywhere that they can fit them. We get a chance to jump in now. We get a chance to come and play and make our cut instead of letting, once again, the big energy companies, foreign-owned energy companies, from coming in and dominating our energy market and dominating us. So we can take some of that profit to pay off our battery, and then we're part of the solution.
Yeah. I don't think many people know that Energy Australia is Chinese-owned.
I didn't know.
No, they are.
I know that,
Hong Kong based. Anyway, Geoff, very interesting, lots of enthusiasm. I hope the battery rebate paperwork sorts itself out. I hear you enjoyed driving your BYD all the way from the Coffs region, 5 hours to Sydney.
Yep.
Any hitch? Did you find the right charging
stopped
station?
in, grabbed a meal, had a quick 25-minute charge. Easy. I could have almost made it here on one charge. It's pretty big, the battery on the Seal. I'm pretty impressed actually. Nearly a year ownership and I've done 27,000 Ks and hasn't skipped a beat.
And hardly paid money for petrol.
Oh, I was paying about $1,000 a year of electricity costs to charge it at night. See, I'm always out at work. I don't get to charge during the middle of the day. And this is what a lot of my clients are also saying. Look, how do I get the cheap solar to run my car? Well, I get it on the weekends, sure. But during the week, if I have to go out and see someone in the morning, I'm charging on cheap rate electricity overnight. So that's costing me about $1,000 a year. Since I went on to Amber VPP, I'm in credit every month. So that's where I'm saying there's probably $1,500 a year worth of extra benefit for my solar and battery system playing with a virtual power plant.
And then you use that income to basically pay for the electricity with which you drive your car.
Yeah, exactly. I'm on negative bills. And I'm running a big house, 5-bedroom house with air conditioning and modern appliances and lots of people coming around. And I'm running an electric car, 30,000 Ks a year.
And you're on a negative bill, meaning you're in the plus. That's a terrible problem to have.
Well, it takes some investment, but it's worth it in the long run.
All right. Well, if you're looking for good solar and battery, check out BetterVolt in the Coffs Harbour. Give me all your suburbs.
Coffs Harbour, Bellingen, Dorrigo, but I go out to Armidale. I go up the coast, north of Coffs, south of Coffs, Kempsey, Grafton. But yeah, generally around Dorrigo, Bellingen and Coffs Harbour. Absolutely.
And you love off-grid.
Yeah, we do lots of off-grid. Like I said, I do the Selectronic product. I think it's the best. Occasionally do Victrons on small cabins, but yeah, 95% of it's Selectronic, Australian-made stuff. Yep.
No, I mean, I've worked and seen Selectronic inverters for literally decades, and
Their factory's impressive, I must say.
They keep on going and going and going.
Yeah.
Better than the Energizer Bunny.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Marcus. It's lovely to talk energy and politics and all the rest, but you guys do a great job of putting the information out there in a way that, it's truthful and direct. So, yeah, I enjoy coming on, and I'll see you again next time, I'm sure.
Yeah. Normally your podcast gets flagged by the algorithm.
Oh, right. Am I going to go viral? I'm too old for that.
No worries. See ya.
Please support the channel by liking the video, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, and check out all our other videos. Want more energy answered? Visit yourenergyanswers.com for quality energy products, tools and calculators, and find your quality local installers. You're still here? I'll see you next time. Bye.